you want something? You want to go again?" But he probably would have kicked my ass. I think I had a lucky punch that night, because you're a lot bigger than me. But yeah, that's how I got into MMA, and then through that I started training jiu-jitsu down in Swansea with Chris Reese, and he was putting on an MMA show, and in my stag, it was the night before Cardiff played Swansea in the football for the first time in like years, and he asked me if I could be the MC, and it was good for me because it was a way of getting in the cage without getting hurt. I wasn't a naturally gifted athlete or fighter, but yeah, I did that show, and because of the Cardiff Swansea rivalry, it all kicked off. There was more fighting in the crowd than in the ring that night in my stake, so that was insane.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's not ideal, though, is it?
Nah.
Not ideal at all. But yeah, to be fair, that Dogs of War gym was decent, wasn't it? To be fair, they used to go at it down there.
Yeah, you had Paul Jenkins, who was at the time, like, he was competing against the likes of Dan Hardy, Paul Daly, Jimmy Wildhead on the regular. He was even fighting in the WEC out in America. He fought like Rich Crinkleton out there as well. So he was, at the time, he was a really big name in the MMA scene. So it was really good to train alongside Paul,
Yeah,
who had over 100 MMA fights.
Yeah, that man, I tell you what, fuck, he never backed down from a fight, did he?
Nah.
Like, even towards the end, when like it must have been difficult towards the end, as he's getting a bit older and stuff, and he had all them injuries or whatever else he picked up, but he's still just like, he just in there, short notice.
Yep. Like I think his last fight was against Jack Marshman, and it was kind of like the handing over the reins, the passing of the torch, because Marshman beat Paul and went on to have a really successful career himself then. So, yeah, definitely a passing of the torch moment.
Yeah, man, and I mean, the MMA scene's changed a lot now. The training's changed, how the way people look at it, and I suppose it's just a bit more because the UFC is more professional. It's kind of filtered down a bit, isn't it? And it's just more of a pathway now rather than people just finding space to knock 10 belts out of each other like it used to be.
Oh mate, like it used to cost me £2 to train for 2 hours in Penarth with Dogs of War with some of the best fighters in the country. Now you have to pay like £80 membership for a gym, but you can just rock up to any classes, and there's like a choice of like 5 or 6 classes a day. And I don't train much martial arts like I used to. Now and again I pop down a local jiu-jitsu gym and do a bit, get my ass kicked mainly, but I can't commit to a membership because I'm not here long enough to just, like, if I take out pay like 80 quid for a month's membership and I only rock up the 4 classes because I happen to be away most of that month, then it's not really good for me, so I don't bother really. And
to be fair, when
some let me pay a £5, and
yeah, that's what I used to do. When I used to train, I'd go pay on the day or whatever, and I'd pay like a £5 or whatever. But it was great that way because I got to train with loads of different people. I went around the place, so I trained with Shaky over in and blooming Joe Duffy over in Abergavenny a bit. I went to Dogs of War for a bit.
Falcons.
Jack's dad, isn't it? But they had a good group over there, to be fair, at the time. Really good bunch of lads, good trainers, and quite technical as well, to be fair. But then I spent a bit of time, like I'd go over to Dogs of War, and I just go about. I was a bit of a nomad. Like I'd go over to Mike Swambo's stuff, and I'd go boxing with Barry Jones. I mean, I'd get humbled everywhere I went. Don't get me wrong, but I'd go these places. You know what I mean? It's good experience in it to put yourself in
Yeah.
there.
It's that's kind of what I did. And when I had my first MMA fight, I was training with Shaky for my like general MMA, and then jiu-jitsu with Chris Reese down in Swansea, and then me and Lewis Long would meet up in the day with Tim Newman and Nathan Beer and Daniel Denzel Thomas, and I'd spar with them in the day. I was the rest round. I was, if they needed a rest, they just go with me rather than actually take a rest, because it was like a rest round for them. But it was mad. My first fight, I had like Shaky, Chris Reese, and Lewis Long in my corner, like an all-star corner team. And truth be told, I just thought if I train with the best gyms, I'll end up fighting someone from one of the worst gyms. It was a tactic. It was more than anything.
Yeah, not bad
But
strategy.
there we go.
To be fair, there was some good fighters knocking about them, wasn't there? There was some decent ones.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of mad now if you look at the UFC now and you get some people and they've had 5 fights and they get into the UFC or Dana White contenders or whatever. It's never been easier to get into the UFC. And you had guys like Tim Newman, Nathan Beer, and Daniel Thomas who if they were around now, they'd be in the UFC like no problem. Like at one point, Denzel was 18 wins and 6 losses. That's like a UFC champion record. That's like a veteran's record in the UFC. But it was so tough 10 years ago to get a sniff at the UFC.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Denzel was a maniac. I trained with Denzel all the time, and he was just at it all the time, just non-stop. That guy.
Yeah, the good thing about Denzel is he was so like, I don't think he'd mind me saying this, but he was so like dumb that people say like he was fit and stupid. So what I mean by that is he was so fit that you could, but then he was too dumb to realize he was like not winning the fight, so he'd keep coming forward and then manage to turn things around based on his fitness. He was and people always say he was awkward, and they couldn't, like, he didn't know what he was going to do next, so nobody could figure out what he was going to do next. Bonkers.
Yeah, he's one of them, mate. He's just like there's no stopping him. There's no off switch.
Nah.
So unless you put him away, you're in a fight until the end.
Yeah, relentless.
Yeah, man. Because I seen him. He fought Joe Duffy, and Joe Duffy was ripping through everybody at the time. He was only young, and he gave Joe a real tough time.
Yeah, that's true. He fought Joe after like 6 months training, when Joe was like a multiple amateur champion at the time, winning all the grappling strike tournaments. And I was like, when I heard that the yard guy from Porth County who terrorized kids from our school during the lunch break was fighting Joe Duffy, I was like, oh, this will be funny. And then Denzel's like took it to him and gave him a good fight.
Yeah, man, he was good. And Joe was good, to be fair, because I used to train with Joe, and he used to just embarrass me daily. So he's
yeah, Joe had a really good career. I mean, one thing about Joe though, he was Irish and he represented Ireland, and that's fair and square. That's fair. This is heritage and everything. But when he put on an Irish accent for the Ultimate Fighter House, I was like, "What's going on here?" It was kind of mad because he was in the Ultimate Fighter House, and then I'd see him at an event in Wales a couple of months later. I'm like, "All right, Joe, how's it going?" It's all right, but it was really good. I had a good time and I was like, "Is that the same guy that was in the?" Hello, the name's Joe Duffy from the Clan McDuffie, and I'm here to take all your titles. And then all of a sudden, he's like proper Valley Boy again. I was like, I get it.
Maybe it's a bit of a gimmick as well to sell himself, because there's a big Irish community in America as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I get it. Totally get it. He was just playing the Irish card to get the Irish on his side. And I went out to Vegas and he happened to be on the card that I went to watch, and there was a lot of Irish guys there to see him, and I was like, you do know he's Welsh, don't you? It's like, no, it's like, well, he's from Ebbowville. Look at all his first fights, you know. But he's retired now. I don't know what he's doing now. So he's had a good career. You know, he's got that win over McGregor.
Yeah, man, that was decent. That one. It's a shame he didn't kind of push on sooner. Really, I think it was the timing was just a bit. Like I say, as he was coming through, as he was getting to 18, the scene was still a bit raw, wasn't it? It wasn't like if he'd have come later on, I think he would have done better.
Yeah, true. And he took time out to be a professional boxer. I think he went 7-0 as well. So, like, if he didn't do the professional boxing, he might have had more in the tank to have a more successful career within the UFC. But take nothing away from him, he's had a great career.
No, he did well, mate. He did well, to be fair. So, away from the MMA, well, not away from the MMA, but like, what made you then, from that one show as a ring announcer, want to go into this as a kind of full-time career?
I didn't really think of it, to be honest. I did the show for Chris Reese in my stig that ended up in a riot, and Chris was my jiu-jitsu coach, but I was training Thai boxing with Lee Power at the Eagles, and Lee asked me if I wanted to do his show as well, and I thought, this is great. All I gotta do is MC a couple of shows for my Thai boxing coach, MC a couple of shows for my jiu-jitsu coach, and I get free training. I'm gonna save a lot of money doing this. And then my friend Andy Sledge, who is an MC from Newcastle and he was based in Reading, he rang me up, said, "Oh, Ricky, you're MC now, right?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not trying to steal your work. I'm just doing it for my coach as a favor." He's like, "Shut the fuck up. Can you do a show for me on Sunday? I can't make it." I was like, nah, I'm not really like, doing it for money or anything. And he said, "Well, there's £200 in it for you." And I was like, oh, you can get paid doing this? And then I drove down to Southampton and covered the show in Oceana nightclub on a Sunday, and I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And from there, it just snowballed. Like, that show in Southampton, there was a promoter there called Brian Adams, who was on the verge of starting his own promotion called Shock and Awe, and he booked me to be their MC. And this weekend just gone, Shock and Awe had a 15-year anniversary. Like, there was a 37th event, and I've only missed 2. So, like, that's how long I've been doing it for, like 15 years now, nearly 16 in April.
Mad,
And
isn't it?
yeah, it just snowballed. Yeah.
It's
Crazy, like
it's not something you think you'd kind of think about, is it? Like when you're in school, you think about, oh, we're going to do when we grow up and like careers and stuff. It's just not really spoken about like these kind of jobs, is it?
no, I had no idea really what I wanted to be. I left school and I thought I wanted to be something in music or media, and that's what I did in college, but I kind of failed, and then started working as a carer, looking after adults with learning difficulties, and I enjoyed that, to be honest. And at the time, I thought, well, this is quite cushy. I mean, all my friends in uni, they're students, and they go out on their student nights in the week. That's cool by me. I'll work on the weekend, and I'll go out with all my student friends in the week. And when you live with your parents and you don't drive and you get a wage at 18, when all your friends are struggling student, you feel like you've got it made, like. And then all of a sudden your friends graduate and get real jobs, and then it's like, oh, actually, I'm not earning that much. But yeah, like in 2015, I got so busy with the MC work that I ended up quitting my job just to see if I could actually live on the money I make as an MC. And 9 years later, minus COVID, where I had to go back into the K sector just to make because there was no shows. I've been thriving as nothing but a ring announcer, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. Because like we just talking off air as well, that you've got a lot of international shows that you do, right? That you've done loads anyway, but you got a load coming up as well.
Yeah, like the run till Christmas now is quite scary. A week today, I'm going out to Abu Dhabi to MC Khabib's cousin, Usman Nurmagomedov. He's competing in like a grappling event called ADXC, and there's a few big names on that, and it's in Abu Dhabi as part of the UFC fight week as well. So like, Abu Dhabi be buzzing with UFC fighters, and they've got like they're doing a slap fight there and championships there while I'm out there as well. I'll probably avoid that, to be honest. But yeah, that's mad. And when I come home, then I'm going straight to the Cayman Islands for a pro boxing show, which will be my 30th country I've emceed in. Even though it's not really a country, it's an overseas territory of the UK. But it's got its own flag, so I'll take it.
Absolutely, mate. It's better than being in Cardiff, eh?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's nothing better than MCing in Cardiff and then just like a 20-minute drive and I'm back in my bed. Can't beat that.
Yeah, fair one. What's it like announcing in front of like a international crowds and stuff? Is that like more daunting? Is it more difficult?
Not really. Like when I go to Sweden, which I've worked in Sweden over 25 times. Swedish people, they have better English than most people in England, and that's a fact. So that's quite easy. When I went to Brazil earlier this year, I shared the mic with a Brazilian lady, and I would do in English, she repeat in Portuguese, and so it kind of works like that. I work really well with local MCs where we kind of take turns and stuff. So it's something I've done a few times in like Paris, Kosovo, Tajikistan, which is bonkers. So yeah, it's just something that happens.
Do you spend a lot of time in these places? Do you like get to like immerse yourself in the culture and kind of explore a little bit, or do any of that?
Every time I go somewhere different, I never know how it's gonna pan out in terms of tourism. Like I went to Egypt last year to do a show called Quadia, and people say, "Oh, did you see the pyramids?" And I said, "Oh, the closest thing I seen to the pyramids was like the Toblerones at the airport on the way home." Because I went there, did the fights. Well, it was weird because my flight was at 5 a.m. and the last fight finished at 2 a.m. and I hadn't packed, and it was like a mad dash to the airport, and I needed to get that flight because I was flying straight to Switzerland to do an event the next day with Vanderlei Silva, like, so I didn't want to miss that. So that was yeah. But then when I went to Brazil, I went to a place called Plenario Cumbario, which I never heard of before, but it's kind of like they want to turn into the South American Dubai. So it's high-rise buildings, nice beaches, flashy cars, and I was there for quite a bit of time. And Howell Teague is the commentator, and he's from Pontypool. And I've known Howell for like 20 years, and I hadn't seen him for 15 years. So it's bonkers how I bump into someone I haven't seen for so long in Brazil, of all places. And he rented a car. And we just drove around doing cool tourist stuff. So yeah, it is cool. Sometimes you just never know what's gonna happen. Like I always take gym stuff with me, and a lot of the time I don't even get a chance to go to gym because I'm doing touristy stuff. Like I went to Luxembourg earlier this year, and the public transport is free in Luxembourg. And I was driving in the bus, and I was like, "Oh, American graveyard," and then I was like, "Oh, I got checked that out." Jumped off the bus, and it was it was one of the, I can't remember his name now, but George Patton, General George Patton, was buried there. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know he was where he was buried, and all of a sudden, I visited the grave. So I do a lot of cool touristy stuff if I can. I like it. Like a lot of times you go somewhere so often, like Sweden. I go like my favorite restaurants, and I go down the streets and people know me, and it's like, oh, welcome back. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I love traveling, and I love seeing new things, meeting new people, and most important, trying new foods.
Yeah, gotta do that, man. I love my food. So
What was that?
you I said I gotta do that. I love my food. I'll eat anywhere and anything. Try anything, me. Love it. But
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time, right? Like, didn't you in the early days when you were learning your trade? I seen you kind of out around the UFC events and stuff a lot. Did you spend some time behind the scenes there and like with Bruce Buffer or anything like that?
Oh, that was in Germany in Oberhausen. UFC did an event there, and they had a press conference Q&A with Dana White, and it wasn't very busy at all. Hardly anyone showed up to this Q&A. So I went up and asked a question on the mic, and then not many people was going up and asking questions, so I just kept going back up myself. And at that point, I think Dana White was sick of me because I kept going back to the mic. Then I saw Bruce Buffer walk in, and I thought, oh, let's shoot my shot. And I thought, well, can I spend a day with Bruce and learn the trade and everything? And Dana was like, well, you just have to ask Bruce. And then Joe Rogan interrupted and said, well, you want an apprenticeship with a master? Can you do the Buffer 360 and all that? And they called me down on the stage, and they gave me the mic, and I introduced. Well, he wasn't here, but I said, "Please welcome Michael the Count Bisping." Did the 360 and everything. After that, Bruce gave me his card and said to contact him, but I never really took him up on the opportunity to shadow him, because basically I was there with my friends. I didn't want to ditch my friends, but like UFC was in Nottingham a few years later, and Bruce gave me and my girlfriend like ringside seats, ringside tickets as well. So like yeah, he's been pretty cool, Bruce. Over the years, I message him from time to time on WhatsApp, but like I haven't seen him since probably for over a decade. I used to go to a lot of UFCs, and last UFC I went to was in 2016, and I didn't see him then. Uh, so yeah, it's pretty cool. I got like I put that on my TikTok channel, and I got over like 500,000 views on that video, so it was pretty cool. People say, "Oh, are you the guy from that video?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me." You know.
Yeah, brilliant, man. It's are you disappointed you never took him up on shadowing him, or are you quite happy with the way things panned out?
No, I mean it was just me and my friend who went out there, and if I would have said, "Oh, like you go to the fights by yourself, and I'm just gonna hang out with Bruce Buffer all day," I'd be a right prick. So, but like I've had plenty of cool interactions with Bruce. I remember when I went to Toronto to watch UFC, and Bruce walked past, and lots of people were having photos with him, and and he saw me in the corner of his eye. He said, "Hey, Ricky," and he went, "Congratulations on your fight," because I just had my first MMA fight, and everyone just turned around and he was like, just looking at me like, "Who the fuck is that guy? He doesn't look like a fighter." And I was like, that was quite funny. But yeah, like he's cool. I might bump into him next week in Abu Dhabi because he'll be out there for UFC and I'll be out there for ADXC, and there's a lot of crossovers. Like they use the same officials for both events. Like, so, who knows? I might hang out with him again.
Maybe, mate. Maybe. What's it like for these shows then? Is it like a lot of prep work beforehand for you?
Yeah, so a lot of the higher level shows speak to the fighters first and learn how to say their names, and especially these big international cards, you get lots of like unusual names. So to speak to the fighters beforehand and learn the phonetic way of saying their name rather than just try and attempt something that's probably going to be wrong. It's you're Welsh, you're a Welsh speaker. When you hear non-Welsh people try to say Welsh place names and Welsh names, it's kind of like borderline offensive, even though it's out of like ignorance, really. But like we do it all the time with other languages, so it's good to do that. But yeah, I just spent an hour in my room on my desk writing everything, going over it, double checking it, triple checking, and I still see mistakes that I missed on the night. I look at my cards like, oh, I forgot to write that guy's weight down, and I don't know how I manage it, but yeah, it's a lot of prep. Like a lot of MCs didn't even prep. Give them the name, you give them they give you the information, and then they just ignore it or whatever. Just say the names and the countries or wherever. But I try to give everyone a good introduction. Did you see I did Uriah Faber's last fight?
No, I missed that. You did that.
Yeah, he was on the last ADXC card in Abu Dhabi, and I was like, and what ADXC is, it's like a high level grappling show with a big budget, and everybody grapples inside a cage. They have a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, like high level IJGBF champions and ADCC champions and stuff. And they also have a lot of MMA fighters too. And on the last card, they had Chad Mendes, Bibiano Fernandez, Uriah Faber, obviously. And yeah, it's mad. Like I'm in the cage, and all of a sudden the lights drop, and then California Love comes on, and Uriah Faber walks to the cage, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to MC. It's fucking the California Kid. Like, pinch me.
I don't know. Do you have like a particular fight or event that like sticks in your head the most?
Oh, there's so many. Like a few years ago, I went to Kazakhstan, and it was like 2 days before Christmas. I took the job on like 5 days notice, and the crowd was insane. In the last fight, everybody just got out of their seats and started walking towards the cage, and the atmosphere was electric. And I was just like, oh my god, how did I get here? I'm from Pennygreg in the Ron that I am, and like, Dan Mergliotta, the UFC ref, was there, which was kind of mad because I've known Dan a long time, but I'd never worked with him up until that point. He'd come over to referee UFCs, and like he was friendly with a few guys I knew, so we'd hang out a few times. And I'm in Kazakhstan with Dan Mergliotta, and he's talking to me, and the fighter's walking to the cage, and he says to me, "Hey Ricky, I remember the first time I spoke to you, and you said to me you wanted to be a big international ring announcer like Bruce Buffer, and I remember that. And look at you now, and I'm like, did I say that? He's like, yeah. He's like, and like I couldn't believe that he remembered me saying that, and reminded me of like, shit, look where you are now. Like you've made it, and like I wouldn't say like I've made it. It's still a long way for me to go in terms of my like career satisfaction, but man, I've had so much fun up until now. It's been great. But like that event in Kazakhstan was definitely special. Brazil was too. I took the Brazilian gig on like 2 days' notice. I didn't even tell my girlfriend that I was going until like the day before because I've had a few big gigs fall through. And every time I get a big gig and the pay is good and everything, we get excited and everything. And because I've had so up until that point quite a lot of letdowns, I thought I'm not going to tell her until it's like my flights are booked and it's 100% confirmed. And then the flights got booked the day before I flew out. I was like, oh, by the way, I'm going to Brazil tomorrow. Can you help me pack? It's like, you are? Like, yeah. But that was mad because it was just full of like Brazilian kids like waving their t-shirts around, and mostly it was their instructors fighting, I guess, because it was such a good atmosphere. And it was mad because in Brazil I was emceeing Hey Ron Gracie, which is like he's a 22-year-old kid who's he's the nephew of Henzo Gracie, and he's the one who's carrying on the family name, and he wins by submission in the middle of Brazil, and all the Gracies like Henzo, Kira, and all the Gracie family, all the grandparents are all in the cage. And then like Henzo's actually filming me as I announce his nephew the winner, and I was like, your winner by collar chalk from Brazil, Henzo, hey Ron Gracie. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I remember when I first got into MMA, and Henzo Gracie was one of the main guys on the scene, and Kira Gracie. I used to have a picture as the background on my phone, and now I'm in the cage with them all. Like you get like what so many pinch me moments. Bonkers.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's better than working in an office 9 to 5, right?
Yeah. I just don't think I got the mental capacity to rock up to an office. I'll stick to working 1 day a week, me.
Yeah, better off, mate. And you get all these experiences as well, right? That you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Like I've had some crazy things. Like if I were to write a book, like I don't think I'm interested enough personally to write a book, but there's some things I'd like to put down on paper that I think that people would find like are quite funny stories. The obviously like, a lot of them I can't mention while people are still alive, just in case they sue me or whatever. But there's so many good stuff that's so many weird things that I've come across and interesting stories and things.
Fair one, mate. You say you're not interested in that. Didn't SLC do a documentary on you?
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, Heno got in touch, and we filmed like a little segment and stuff, and that was pretty cool to do. Like Heno, to be fair, they for anyone outside of Wales or who don't speak Welsh, Heno is like the Welsh language version of the One Show, and it was good to be on that. And they've done a lot for MMA. They have Brett Johns on regularly, who is Wales's first athlete to fight on a UFC. So he's been, every time he has a fight to promote, he's always on there, and they do a lot for MMA, and especially if you're a Welsh language speaker. So yeah, and Fionn Davis as well. Do you know Fionn Davis?
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, she's like, people are calling her the GOAT, the greatest of all time in female grappling, and she's a Welsh language speaker as well. And I know Heno got in touch with me firstly just so like I could put him in touch with Fionn, and she was fighting in the main event in Paris a couple of months ago, and I was the MC, and I thought, I'm going to introduce her in Welsh. I know nobody in here will understand, but she'll understand and I'll understand. And I'm not going to ask production because they're going to say no. So I'm just going to just go with it. So it's like, Bona Ddigiona, Bona Ddigesa, Ro Croeso. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fionn o Cymru from Wales, Fionn Davis. Yes. That was good.
Sneak it in. Right, that. So like, obviously you've done other shows on SLC as well, haven't you? Didn't you like appear on a few
Yeah,
other bits?
in 2015 for the Rugby World Cup, I did about 8 episodes of Jonathan, which is like a rugby magazine program that like they kind of preview the World Cup, and it was a show years ago when I first started MCing called Cuff Your Coweth, which did a feature on like an MMA, 3 different MMA shows in Wales. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, SLC are pretty good. It's one of the reasons I'm glad I went to a Welsh school. The opportunities like SLC give to Welsh speakers is fantastic. Like it's like Brett Johns because he speaks Welsh, but then you got someone like Jack Shaw who doesn't speak Welsh. Brett will always have that extra bit of income just because he's a Welsh speaker and he can come on and they'll promote him, and he's a Welsh language celebrity, not just a sports athlete. It's anyone watching, send your kid in Wales, send your kids to a Welsh school. Siarad Cymraeg fel fi a Aaron.
Definitely, it's actually like it wasn't when I was in school. So when we went to school, we went to Welsh school anyway. But like they changed it, didn't they? Like relatively recently, that now even if you go to English speaking school in Wales, you have to do Welsh GCSE now, don't you?
Oh, I didn't know that, but that's really cool. I
Yeah, I'm
think.
pretty sure they've changed that, and they should do that. That should be like the minimum, because like, you know what I mean? I think we should just all have just only Welsh language schools, but maybe I'm a bit extreme.
No, I'm exactly the same. I think everyone in Wales should have a level of Welsh speaking, and when we were in school, our school was like completely white, only white kids. But now it's kind of like you've got kids from other ethnic backgrounds speaking Welsh, and you look at the Eisteddfods, and there's Welsh kids competing in like poetry competitions and stuff, but they're all like a lot of them from different ethnic backgrounds. I love seeing that. I love seeing multicultural Wales speaking Welsh. It's lush.
Yeah, man, that's the way it should be anyway, isn't it? Because like if I moved to Spain with my kids and my kids went to Spanish school, I'd want them to speak Spanish, right? You immerse yourself in whatever culture you're in, don't you?
Yeah. No, that's it. See, it's important.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So, like, coming back to the MCing a little bit, right? What's success look like for you with your MCing? Because from my view, you've done like amazingly already. You've done all these things that a lot of people could only dream of, and probably even you at the start, you probably thought, "Oh, I'll never get that far." Yeah, here you are. So, what's success now from here for you?
Ideally, I'd like to be the guy in terms of like a promotion that I am the not just the first choice, but I am their guy. Like where I don't have to. Oh, do you need me for this show? Or message like that. I'm just like, here are our dates. Just like keep them free. And there are promotions that I am the guy for, like Fight Club Russia in Sweden. I'm just a guy. They send me the dates in advance, and I make sure I'm available for them. But like ADXC at the moment, they're the people who booked me for Abu Dhabi, Paris, and Brazil this year, and they've got shows coming up in Abu Dhabi, Brazil, and another show towards the end of the year. Apparently, they want to do 10 shows next year. But each event, they message me, it's like, "Oh, are you available?" But I just rather them say like, "Here are the dates. You're our guy. Here's a tract." For me, what I want from to be called successful is I want to travel. If it was an event in the UK that said, "Oh yeah, it's 15 shows a year. We will pay you £3,000, but all the shows in the UK," I'd be a bit like, meh. It's like, "Oh yay, let's go to Hull. Fantastic." It just wouldn't do it for me. With ADXC, they got plans to go to China, to go to all sorts of places that I can only dream of going, and they pay really well. The owner of ADXC is apparently the CEO of Man City, so, and I want to be, and I want to be, and I want to announce big names. I want to be involved in big fights as well. So ADXC, I mean, I've got to announce Uriah Faber and Chad Mendes on the last one. Hayron Gracie I've done twice. On the upcoming show, Khabib's cousin Usman Nurmagomedov's fighting. You don't get much bigger names than Nurmagomedov, So like, yeah, ideally, I become the guy full time, and that would be me happy and successful. At the moment, with jobs, sometimes I'm really really busy. Sometimes I'm not as busy, and I on the weekend I did Shark and All, and the promoter who I worked with said, "Oh, you've been with us for 15 years." And in that time, we've had people sort of outgrow us and move on. And like John Gooden, the UFC commentator, used to commentate on Shock and Awe, and Ben Cartilage used to be the judge on Shock and Awe, but now he's a UFC judge. So he understands where they've gone on because they're at the highest level. But he said like other people who've never who've outgrown them, they sort of like forgot where they've come from, sort of thing. Whereas me, like I've done some big shows all over the world, 5 continents, but I've never like outgrown the smaller shows because I understand that if all these big shows stop, I'll always have the smaller shows to come to. They're my bread and butter, and I'll try and never forget like who was there at the earlier stage of my career. And I still love the people that who I work with. So yeah. So your answer short is to just the short version is to just have regular work. Really boring answer, actually.
I get it though. When you're kind of self-employed, it's kind of important in it to have that kind of regular work, especially the work that you enjoy and you want to do. So
Yeah, like there are events I do work now, which if I was working for a big company, then and I'd have a choice. There's a lot of promotions I work for now. I'm like, nah, I don't want to work for them anymore or them anymore. Some, when like a job feels like a job rather than like a good time. But like Europe Europe has seen a dramatic change in MMA in the last couple of years. Like you got PFL Europe and Bellator Europe. You've got Octagon, the Czech promotion, which they did like 70,000 attendance on the weekend in a German football stadium in Frankfurt. Like to be on one of them shows as the MC would be ideal. Um, you know, as I said, like I want to be involved in big fights. Again, with boxing, I've worked for a lot of the major boxing promoters, Eddie Hearn, boxer, and you know, I beat on some big boxing cards, but I'm always at the moment. I'm always feel like I'm second choice or third choice. I'm just waiting to be first choice, and that's where I aim to be.
Yeah. What advice would you give to like anybody aspiring to be like an MC who's just starting out?
Don't. There's too many of us. You stop undercutting me and stealing my job. No, I'm joking. Um, I get quite a lot of MCs who starting out and they message me and my girlfriend thinks I'm too nice because I will give them advice and tell them what they could be doing better and stuff. And she said, "Stop fucking telling them. They're only gonna undercut you and steal your work." And I'm like, "No, I'm a nice person in nature, so I try and help them as much as possible. But when people do come to me, like I try and tell them to get as much experience as possible. When I first started, I messaged Craig Stephen, who is one of the best ring announcers in the world. He in MMA, he done a few Bellator events. He's also done many boxing events for like Matchroom, Sauerland Brothers. He's been all over the world. He's done Anthony Joshua fights. He's David Hay fights. He's done it all. And I messaged him, and he was nice enough to reply to me. And we speak regularly on a daily basis, and we have done for like 10 years. But like, Craig told me a story about once another MC reached out to him and said, hey, Craig, can you offer me advice?" And Craig's advice was, "Yeah, get in touch with your local amateur boxing gym, get as much experience, learn the sport, blah, blah, blah." The guy said, "Okay." And then the next thing he tweeted Amir Khan. I was like, "Amir, I'm a ring announcer. Can I do your next fight?" And Craig was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." Because a lot of people don't want to pay their dues and learn the sport. They just want to go straight to the top. And it never works out. You know, you can go straight to the top, but like you can lie and cheat your way to the top and pretend you're something you're not by using smoke and mirrors. But when you get that opportunity and you haven't really earned your stripes and all eyes on you, you're gonna fuck it up. And I've seen that happen quite a lot, where like a new MC comes on the scene with a gimmick, they have a good videographer, makes good highlight videos, but they don't even know how to announce a split decision properly. And it's like you could see it coming a mile away. So any MC that wants to start, it's the best job ever. But like, learn the trade, don't undercut people. I've got way more work by being friendly with people than slagging other MCs off and saying I'm better than this guy. So like, yeah, it's the best job ever. But just like, there's another MC who started same time as me, like a few months after me, been gone for 15 years, and he's never done like live TV. He's never gone international, and he's a good MC. But like, just don't expect, "Oh, I'm gonna be an MC. I'm gonna be a jet setter just like Ricky," because you might be, but it's only a small number that get to the level that I'm at, and I'm desperate to get to the next level where there's even smaller number of people like Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon Jr., Joe Martinez. I want to get to that level.
Yeah, it's about paying your dues, no matter what industry or thing you're in, and you've got to pay your dues because ultimately, if you get up there, especially as an MC, there's nowhere to hide, right? That light's on you. Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's listening to you. There's nowhere to
Oh
hide in
yeah,
that moment. It's a lot of pressure, right?
like I did this. I did this massive show in Newcastle a couple of years ago, live on TV around the world, big title fights, big name boxers, and that was a Friday night. But I had a Sunday show in the Midlands that pays really small. But I was like, I kind of committed to it because I took the show on in advance. So I drove home from Newcastle, and I was on the phone to my girlfriend, and she's, "Oh, you may as well come home. You don't need to do that shitty show on Sunday in Birmingham. No, you may as well just come home." And I was like, "Becca, you know." And then the phone cut out, right? The signal cut out, and then I listened to Planet Rock, and there's a song on it called "Climbing Mountains" by Joe Bonamassa. Do you know the song?
No, I can't say I do.
And I don't really listen to Joe Bonamassa. Never really got into him. But there's a song called "Climbing Mountains," and it was a lyric in a song, and it's like, "There's blood on my hands and there's holes in my jeans. You work all night, but you'll never get them clean. The hard rock bottom, there's nothing down there but blues. And the top of the mountain, you still gotta pay your dues." And I was like, wow. And I was like, Beck, I've got to do this show on Sunday. Like, it's like, why though? You just made like $2,000 on one show. Why are you gonna work a small show the next day for £200? And I was like, well, I don't know how, if I fuck off all the smaller people who got me where I am, how am I going to ever like? What if the big shows? What if the big shows don't last? As it turns out, the big show I was working on, they did two or three more shows after that, and then like they got caught up in a scandal and ceased operations, and so like it didn't exist anymore. But I still had the small shows to keep me afloat, and who knows if our song, the random song I never heard before by Joe Bonamassa, never came on the radio, I probably would have fucked that up too.
Yeah, man, it's important in it as well to like. I know sometimes we want to, run before we can walk a little bit, but especially when you're kind of self-employed, you don't want to be burning any bridges or like doing like no shows and stuff, not turning up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like when people book me now for smaller shows, I will tell them, look, there's a chance that a bigger show might come along and pay for, and I have to take that job because they will pay me 5 times the amount and everything. But what I will do, I will find a suitable replacement for that show. I'll never like leave them high and dry. Like, try guys, I'm off to Brazil tomorrow. Sort yourselves out. I'll before I even accept the job, I'll make sure I've got a replacement MC to do a good job and cover that show for me. But yeah, burning bridges, not cool. Um, and you'll always have the smaller shows, like the local amateur boxing gym. Like I'll do their show for free. It's part of like it's like a they put on shows to raise money for their club so they can pay the electric and pay the bills of their little boxing club. So I'm not going to go out and demand money off them. And also I can walk to the show as well from my house, which is a rarity.
That's a nice touch. Yeah. What's so do you, obviously like when you're MCing, right, you need to be like high energy, right? You need to like be there, be on it. So like there must be some times when you're like you feel a bit shitty, you might be like under the weather or whatever, or jet lagged or whatever. How do you kind of keep your energy high for them shows when you're feeling that way?
I don't really know. I don't tend to um this one time I did a show in Bristol, and I flew home from Romania that morning, and while I was in Romania we did like 6 days of fights at the European Championships, and we never left the hotel the entire time we were there. And on the last night, we all went out for a few beers, and I didn't get back in from the night out until 7 a.m. My flight was at like 10 a.m. Landed in Luton. My friend drove from Luton to Bristol, dropped me off, and I was so tired and a hangover. And like the ring girls like had to wake me up to get in the ring and announce the winner. I was like, anyway, and and I was like, you should. And I kind of made that decision that night. That was in 2018, but I made that decision to not ever be hangover as an MC. Try and always give it my full undivided attention, to be full of energy. But there are events that have huge cards. Like on the weekend just gone, we had 26 fights. The weekend before that, we had 28 fights. And yeah, it is tough to keep it going. Uh, like some people, they like to ramp it up as they go along. Some people say you should give the same energy to the first fight as you do to the last fight. But yeah, I tend to. I don't know. I drink coffee. That's about it, really.
What's your
Yeah,
theory on
I,
it?
I don't really have a problem.
What's your theory on it? Do you ramp it up as you go along, or do you keep it same for everyone?
I don't know. I find it. I think you have to ramp it up, because if you start a show and there's only like the arena's only a quarter full, because most people are coming for the men, you can't really go 100% in the first fight, because you're gonna look stupid in front of like 200 people. I remember in lockdown I did a show on BT Sports in an empty studio, and they're like, "Oh, give us some energy." And it's like, how can I give her energy in a room, in an empty room? Like, I'm not even in the ring. I'm on the side in like this designated corner, and I'm just gonna just do it as I would. But yeah, it's a strange one. But yeah, I probably ramp it up. Like on the weekend, I kind of lost my shit for the main event. Give it a big Bruce Buffer effort.
Love it. Yes. It's. I think it makes sense to ramp it up because, like I say, the main event is like the whole card's designed to be ramped up, right? Every fight card's designed to be ramped up to the big finale. So it just makes sense that
Yeah,
you follow that pattern.
yeah. No, it's got to be done.
Have you had any major hiccups or issues when you've been announcing?
Well, yeah. If on my TikTok, if there's a video, I was live on the undercard. Luckily, we were only live on the YouTube stream at the time, and not the UFC Fight Pass stream. Only the main card was on it, and like a fly went into my mouth as I was talking, and I like kind of coughed. Then I coughed, and I heard people laughing in the crowd. Then I that I kind of like was coughing and laughing at the same time, and then because the crowd were all laughing at me, I couldn't stop laughing, and the commentator was like, "Oh no, what's going on?" It's like, and lucky he was only on the undercard, but yeah, that's on my TikTok and my Facebook, but that was quite embarrassing. Like I made mistakes. I made mistakes. Like sometimes it's my fault. Most of the time, it's somebody else's fault. Like I get given the wrong winner or something, but nothing ever too serious. But that fly incident stands out because it was just funny as fuck, really.
Sounds like you styled it out a bit, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, I owned it. I got to the point where I was like, well, I fucked up. I can't change it. To just laugh her off, apologize, and just go for it again. And yeah,
Love it. So the future of like MC and stuff for the industry itself, how do you see that going? Do you see it like do you see a lot of companies kind of doing it in house, or do you think it'll continue kind of the same sort of way with like sort of self-employed MCs just dipping in and out?
well, at the moment you get the top guys like Michael Buffer at the moment. He's like he was talking about retirement 10 years ago, and he's even announced his retirement. I'm sure once, and I remember I remember like he actually officially retired, and then he said, "Oh, how come we doing this show?" It's like, well, I was gonna retire, but they gave me 9 good reasons to continue, and I was like, fuck, they must have paid him, I don't know, a lot of money to continue. But like, there'll come a time though where he'll finally hang up, and it'll be a sad day because he's been an ever present announcer in the boxing world, and like Bruce Buffer, of course, he has a more high energy style than his brother Michael. And how long can he continue? Like he has an impressive fitness regime, but when they move on, I mean, it's it's going to be like a lot of people out to get their jobs, and you know it is a bit of a now. At the moment, you got David Diamante, who's doing a lot of the Matchroom shows. He he seems to think he calls himself the voice of boxing, and like he has this like sense of entitlement that he's like the heir to the throne sort of thing. But I don't know. In terms of announcers, there's more announcers now than ever before, and that's probably because there's so many like white collar shows in the UK, and everybody thinks they can be an announcer, and everyone thinks once they've done a few fights, they think they can go on to the next stage, the next level. But I don't know. I don't really know. But it seems, yeah, there's more shows than ever, but there's more announcers than ever. But hopefully, none of them will be better than me. Even though there are a lot are, but you know, I don't think not many work as hard as me.
How do you work on your game then, Ricky? How do you like improve and continue improving your delivery?
I've got imposter syndrome where I don't realize how good I am. I need to be constantly validated by certain things. So you get some ring announcers who think they are the finished article and they never really watch themselves back. And you can tell which are which because these guys are the ones who never improve. They sound exactly the same as they did 10 years ago when they first started. They just think they're so good that there's no room for improvement, so they don't really get better. With me, I probably was more confident 10 years ago than I am now. And even 10 years ago, I watched back and I'm like, ooh, I cringe at how bad I was. And back then, I thought I was amazing. I thought, like, fucking hell, I am the dog's bollocks here. Now, technically, as in like technical ability, I'm very good at what I do. But I'm more critical now than ever before because I'm like, oh, you could have done that better. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. And like a lot of MCs, I always say this, they're all about the delivery. They're all about how you introduce a fighter into the cage or into the ring, and they think that that's the most important part. Now, Aaron, you watch UFC. You you stay. Do you stay up late to watch UFCs, or do you record it the next morning?
I used to. Now
Uh,
I watch it the next day.
yeah. Now let me ask you something. Do you do you watch the intros? Do you watch Bruce Buffer's intros, or do you fast forward to the start of the fight?
Yeah, you skip the intro, right? You watch the fight, but you'll watch the decision, right?
Exactly. So a lot of MCs thinking it's all about the intro. They want to do it's like, oh, I'm gonna get this crowd hyped up the fucking back. I'm gonna give this guy an amazing intro, and everybody's gonna be so pumped up. But like, even when you're in the arena, you go to the bar or you go to the toilet, a cigarette. Oh, the announcer's on. I got 3 or 4 minutes so I can pop out and come back. But so the only time anyone really gives a fuck when an announcer has anything to say is when it goes to a decision in a close fight. And so many announcers concentrate on the intro, but neglect the decision. Now, I know that the only time the camera is on me and the only time anyone gives a fuck what I've got to say, the only time that people in the UK watch MMA and they watch it the next day and they fast forward and they never fast forward past the decision. So why neglect that part? Why not learn how to make that part the most exciting it can be announcing the decision? Like a lot of people don't know how to announce a split decision, a majority decision, a split draw, a majority draw, all these different variations of decisions correctly to get the most impact. That's something I've spent a lot of time on doing because I know it's the only time anyone gives a fuck what I've got to say. That's true. I think a lot of ring announcers are driven by ego. I think you have to have an ego to be a ring announcer. You have to have a level of ADHD, be a bit of an attention seeker, a bit of an egomaniac to do what I do. And myself included, like, I am a bit of an attention seeking egomaniac at times, not going to lie. So I make sure that when the time to announce the fights, when everyone actually gives a shit what I got to say, that I'm going to get that right. And and that's how I think one of the reasons that sets me apart from other announcers because it's often neglected. But yeah, as I said, I got imposter syndrome. I watch myself back and I try to tweak little things here and there. And any announcer who's any good should be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, mate. To be fair, it's the old Team Sky principle, isn't it? That old marginal gains, 1%. If you keep improving time and time again, you'll just it adds up over time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it is mad when you see some announcers that just haven't improved, haven't switched it up, haven't changed. They're the same now as they've ever been. Like I even now, I think like I haven't really changed much in the last 2 or 3 years. But I watch clips of me from a year ago, and I'm like, oh, I don't do that anymore. Wow, when did I start doing that? It's weird. Like it's the gradual 1% improvement. At the moment, I swear I'm starting to get a bit senile, so I'm getting really forgetful. So my new thing now is to try and take brain vitamins, try and improve my brain. So like I make less, like I don't make mistakes often, but they're starting to creep in, and it's something that I had never really been used to. Maybe it's complacency because I work so often, but I'm really conscious of like my brain at the moment. I need to protect the brain. I need more fish, more omega 3.
Don't worry, mate. It's not just you. My brain's been mush for years. Don't worry about it. I think it's always been mush, to be honest. But what can I do?
Yeah, it's something I'm really self conscious of at the moment. But it might be inside my head, ironically.
Yeah, I think it's healthy though that that you are critiquing yourself in that way, because that's the only way you'll keep improving, right? Because like if you just be like, I'm the finished article, then actually everybody else is going to start catching you up or overtaking you, and you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, 100%. And like I think about 8 years ago, I completely changed my template, the way I say things, and the order I say things in. And like when I talked to Craig, the Scottish MC I was talking about earlier, like Craig he's a bit of a savant when it comes to ring announcing. And when went to him for advice, he wouldn't say, "Oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should change it up." You'd say, "Try this instead," and I would, and that works really well. It's like it's like little tiny tweaks. Like I watch a lot of announcers, and I see them waste so many words. Like nobody's there to see us; they're there to see their fights. Some MCs they want to milk it and be on TV for as long as possible. I'm totally different. Where I'm like, I want to be in my chair and want to see the fight as soon as possible. From a fan of the sports perspective, and not wanting to outstay my welcome on TV. And like TV companies as well, they don't want to be filming an MC for the majority of the broadcast. They want to get straight to the fights. If you've got so many fights to squeeze in, you've got to get it over and done with. They've got deadlines and they've got schedules to stick to. Last thing they want is you in the cage announcing the fighter's shoe size, the fighter's fucking past relationship history, and everything. Just short and snappy.
Yeah, fair one, mate. And the other thing I was going to ask as well, do you know, like, have you had to do work on your voice to get that big projection for these like shows?
L- Luckily, as a Welshman, that comes naturally to us. With we known for being singers, but no, I find with the voice, some people say like I've got like a more of a Jimmy Lennon Jr. style, and I kind of project through the nose rather than the chest, and some people say otherwise, but no, I've always been able to project. I got some guys who got a much deeper voice than me, and then some others who got a higher voice, but yeah, it's just I've never had like vocal coaching or anything. It's something I thought about, but I haven't needed it after 15 years of doing this. I have never needed it before. Maybe that's the next step. If I could project from the belly rather than the nose, maybe sound a lot less nasal. Maybe that's the next step.
Well, mate, I don't think there's any issues with it, but I just wondering if you have to do anything for it, because like it could be, your voice is your tool in it, tool of the trade, essentially.
But like I'm a big fan of the band Rush, and I read Geddy Lee, the singer's book recently, and in his book he was saying like the day of a Rush concert, he just stays by himself, doesn't speak to anybody. Where they used to do like meet and greets with fans, he would just like stay in a room or go for a walk in disguise by himself, but just wherever he does that day, he just doesn't talk to anybody. Just preserves that voice so ready can give the best performance on show night, and that's probably something that could benefit me. You know, I don't like many people anyway, so I just like just stay in my room, not talking. Maybe learn sign language.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd find that quite miserable, me. I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Ricky, it's been amazing having you on, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk with me. Do you have any kind of final messages that you want to leave people with?
Sort of like Jerry Springer's final thought.
Ricky Wright's final thought today. That's what we want.
Ricky writes, if you want to become a ring announcer, follow your dreams. But I don't know, I'm talking crap now. No, it's nice to have you. Nice to speak to you. I haven't seen you in years. I remember, like in school, there you were in a year above us, above me, and you were going out with a girl from my year in school, and then a few years later, then you were in the cage. I think in Western Supermare. Was that you or Nebby Vale fighting in the cage? And I was like, oh, I remember him.
I fought in Ebervale. That was my first one, I think. And then I fought on anger management in the Call Exchange. I think Tim Newman was on that card as well.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And I was like, oh, I remember him from school.
Yeah, I'd been training.
But that's it, yeah.
I think Paul was on that card as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good card there. Anyways, pleasure to speak to you, and hope I get quite a few listens. I hope I didn't bore the crap out of anyone.
Absolutely not, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Take care.
All right, thank you, Britt.